Milarepa, one of the most venerated figures in Tibetan Buddhism, stands as a profound example of personal transformation. His journey from a life marked by anger, revenge, and suffering to becoming an enlightened master is a tale of redemption and the immense power of compassion. The story of Milarepa teaches us not only the futility of vengeance but also how suffering, when transformed, can lead to boundless compassion and spiritual growth. Milarepa's early life, a path of suffering. Born in the 11th century into a well-off family, Milarepa's early life was filled with potential. However, after his father's untimely death, his life took a dramatic turn. His uncle and aunt usurped his family's wealth, leaving him, his mother, and his sister destitute. Fueled by grief, anger, and a thirst for justice, Milarepa turned to the dark arts of sorcery, eventually causing the death of many of his relatives in a devastating act of revenge. While his revenge brought temporary satisfaction, Milarepa soon realized that the cycle of hatred only deepened his suffering. The weight of his actions filled him with guilt and despair. His mother's desire for revenge, which had initially driven him, became hollow as he recognized that violence only led to more suffering. Milarepa's turning point, seeking redemption. Haunted by the consequences of his actions, Milarepa sought redemption. He realized that no external force could alleviate the immense suffering he had caused and endured. In a desperate quest for liberation, Milarepa sought out the great Buddhist master Marpa, a teacher known for his wisdom and harsh methods of instruction. Marpa did not immediately grant Milarepa teachings on the Dharma. Instead, he subjected him to grueling physical labor, asking him to build and rebuild stone towers multiple times. Milarepa endured immense hardship during this period, nearly giving up several times. This was a crucial phase in Milarepa's transformation, as Marpa's harsh treatment was designed to purify Milarepa's negative karma, allowing him to atone for his past deeds. After years of enduring these trials, Milarepa's persistence and genuine desire for redemption touched Marpa, who finally bestowed upon him the teachings of the Dharma. This marked the beginning of Milarepa's spiritual awakening. The path of Dharma, transforming suffering into compassion. Once Milarepa received the Dharma teachings, he threw himself into rigorous meditation and practice, isolating himself in the mountains for years at a time. Through intense spiritual discipline, he began to gain deep insights into the nature of suffering and the interconnectedness of all beings. The pain and sorrow that had once fueled his revenge were now the very fuel for his spiritual growth. Milarepa's deep realization of the impermanence of life and the illusory nature of suffering allowed him to transform his pain into a source of compassion. He recognized that all beings suffer in one way or another, and his previous life of violence and revenge was an embodiment of the very ignorance that binds sentient beings to the cycle of samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Rather than dwelling on his past, Milarepa chose to turn his suffering into a wellspring of compassion. He began to view others not through the lens of judgment or resentment but with deep empathy, understanding that their actions, too, were driven by ignorance and suffering. The teachings of Milarepa, compassion in action. Milarepa's transformation from a vengeful sorcerer to a compassionate yogi is a testament to the power of inner transformation. As he attained enlightenment, Milarepa became a teacher who emphasized the importance of turning inward to confront one's own suffering. His life exemplifies how, through the Dharma, one can transmute the poisons of anger, hatred, and ignorance into wisdom, love, and compassion. Milarepa's songs and teachings often centered around the themes of renunciation, impermanence, and the importance of meditation. His teachings were not abstract or detached from reality, they were born from the crucible of his own lived experience. He taught that by confronting and understanding our suffering, we can develop genuine compassion for others. His personal example showed that no matter how deep one's past misdeeds or suffering, it is possible to purify oneself and achieve spiritual liberation. He also emphasized that compassion is not passive but is an active force that arises from understanding the suffering of others. True compassion, according to Milarepa, is not merely a feeling of pity or sympathy but a profound and active commitment to alleviate the suffering of others, grounded in the wisdom of interdependence and the nature of reality. The legacy of Milarepa, a beacon of hope. Milarepa's story continues to inspire millions of practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism and spiritual seekers worldwide. His life illustrates that redemption is always possible, no matter how dark one's past might be. His teachings remind us that suffering, when properly understood and worked with, can become the very path to enlightenment. In a world where anger, revenge, and hatred often seem to dominate, Milarepa's transformation offers a beacon of hope. Through the example of Milarepa, we learn that compassion is not something we are simply born with or without. It is a quality that can be cultivated through the conscious work of transforming our suffering and understanding the suffering of others. His journey from revenge to enlightenment underscores the transformative power of the Dharma and how suffering, when skillfully approached, can lead not only to personal freedom but to compassionate action for the benefit of all beings. A call to compassionate action. Milarepa's life and teachings remind us that even the darkest experiences can be the catalyst for profound spiritual growth. By turning our own suffering into a path of compassion, we are not only healing ourselves but also becoming a source of healing for others. His journey encourages us to look deeply into our own hearts, to face the pain and suffering we encounter, and to transform it into the very essence of compassion. In a world that often seems overwhelmed by suffering, Milarepa's example challenges us to take compassionate action, to rise above our own pain, and to extend love and understanding to all beings. Through this process, we can begin to break the cycles of suffering and create a world rooted in kindness, wisdom, and compassion, just as Milarepa did so many centuries ago.